Hi guys, and welcome to this unbox and review of a new watch. This has literally just arrived. I've taken it out of the outer box. I've had a quick peek inside the box, but I've not unwrapped it yet because I want to share the whole thing on camera with everybody. And before I go into the box, I won't keep you in suspense for long, but I will say that in addition to working on watches, I also collect watches. I have quite a wide-ranging variety of styles, and I like all manner of things from modern to vintage and everything in between. Now, something occurred to me the other day while I was talking to somebody about watches and about my collection, and that was that there is a distinct Moonphase shaped hole in my collection. And this is partly because over the years I've never really seen one that jumped out and really appealed to me design-wise. And the ones that were quite appealing were a little bit expensive for me. So I then had a bit of a nose around the internet and I found this, and as you can see, this is Chinese, clearly. And it's a beautiful looking thing. So without further ado, let's dive into the box and see what we have. So we've got an outer cardboard sleeve with a little pull down flap here and a protective fold over cloth which also covers the sides, and this lovely wooden box with a lift up lid. And I'm not sure what that is. I think that might be lacquered wood. We'll have a look at that in a moment anyway. So we open the box. Inside the box we have got a cleaning cloth with some Chinese characters on. I have no idea what it says. If anybody here knows Chinese and you can translate this, please do so. I would appreciate it greatly. Just pop it in the comments below. One thing I've just noticed about this cleaning cloth is this is not your typical little square of cleaning cloth. This thing is enormous. Just look at the size of that. You could almost use that as a bath towel. Okay, I'm maybe exaggerating slightly there, but wow. I mean, normally when you get a cleaning cloth in a watch case, it's a tiny little square of cleaning cloth. We've got a packet of cocktail sticks, toothpicks. This made me chuckle a little bit. And there's a note when pushing the recess, etc, etc, etc. So this is the recess button for the quick set date. So these are clearly provided to assist you with prodding the little inset button for the quick set date. I thought that was quite a nice little touch. We have the watch wrapped up in bubble wrap on a little cushion there, as you can see, very nicely protected. With a black leather or leather type strap and a deployment clasp. And up here we've got a little wallet. Inside this wallet, more Chinese writing on this incidentally. So again, if you know what this says, please enlighten me, I would greatly appreciate it. And inside it we have this card, and likewise again Chinese characters. I'm assuming this is a guarantee card. Now I can't, obviously it's all in Chinese, I can't read any of that. I don't know what it says, but I'm assuming it's some kind of guarantee, warranty, something like that maybe. So let's get this watch unwrapped and take a good look at it. And you will be seeing this along with me, because this is the initial unwrapping, he says, if I can actually find an appropriate end of the sellotape to work from. Here we go. Oh. I certainly can't say that it wasn't adequately protected. It's very much so. And there we go. So there's the watch, and you can't see that incredibly clearly at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and take the remainder of the wrapping off. We have this this blue wrapping and then a clear wrapping protecting the case, and you can see there we've got a presentation, a display case back. showing the movement, which is an ETA 28242 clone. Beautifully decorated by the look of it as well. Wow. Wow, that looks amazing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unwrap the rest of this, and then I shall get some nice close-up shots for you. I want to mention at this point that this watch in question came from a website called good-stuffs.com, an unusual name, but excellent customer service. I'll pop the link in the description below. I have no affiliation with them, but I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, because when I searched for this watch, it was pretty much the only place I found that had it readily available. When I did a Google search, I'd seen a picture of the watch, I knew what it was called, and when I searched for it, there weren't that many places that were offering it for sale. This particular one was the first one I found. The cost of the watch was $310 US, which at the time of purchase equated to somewhere in the region of 237 UK pounds. Considering the movement, the case, the finish quality, and how well it has performed, and as you will see further through the video, I am absolutely astounded by that. The responses I got, I'd never heard of the site, so I sent a couple of emails, asked a couple of questions. I had a response from a Junlao. Apologies if I've mispronounced that to any of the Chinese viewers, but I'm just assuming, working on an assumption with the pronunciation of that. Very quick replies, full detail and incredibly helpful, which gave me more confidence in purchasing from him, especially given that, as I say, I'd never heard of the site. And there are a wide range of watches on there. From ordering to receipt, I think was just under a week and a half, which is absolutely astounding, frankly. And the packaging was superb. As you saw with the unboxing, the packaging, the box quality and the packaging there is very, very good. The watch itself being wrapped in bubble wrap, but the box was then wrapped in bubble wrap and in a very sturdy, precisely sized cardboard box as well. So I'm quite happy to make a recommendation for the site, as said in the comments box below, if you would like to take a look at this or any one of the many other watches they have on the site. And I will certainly be taking a look at what else they have for potential future purchases, and hopefully I'll be able to bring you some more interesting and unusual reviews. We're going to start with the dial, and looking at the dial from the 12 o'clock position, we can see the seconds hand sweeping gracefully round just there. And you can see, trying to avoid the glare for you, at the 12, 3, 6 and 9 positions, in addition to the blue Chinese characters, we have these red Chinese characters at above them. And I'm not sure what they signify. Again, unfortunately, I can't read Chinese, and I wish I could, so that I was able to explain the meanings of these, but I'm assuming they signify on the hour, quarter past, half past and quarter to. I am assuming also that this red characters here is the brand name of the watch, and hopefully you can see the very nice quality of the hands. I'm just going to adjust the focus a wee bit for you so we can see what's going on there. You can see they're very nicely formed, no rough edges, and something that's common on cheaper watches from China and such, with no disrespect whatsoever. But obviously, where there's a budget, there are restrictions, and there are tells on those restrictions. And one of the things you commonly see are slightly off-center pipes on the seconds hand and such like. Now you can see here, these are all beautifully formed. They've all got nice clean edges, nice curved hour and minute hands, as you can see there, if I just twiddle that about for you. Really nicely formed. The text, the Chinese characters, is beautiful and crisply printed. Really, really nice all the way around. Nice and sharp, very legible, no smudges, nothing out of register. Looks really, really nice indeed. Likewise, the characters on the Moonphase there. I love how the Moonphase is very slightly off center as well. And you'll note with pretty much every Moonphase watch that you see, this will be centered with this crescent shape centered at the top, and I like how this is very slightly off kilter. It's nice. It makes it a little bit more unusual. You can see the quirky calendar date hand there with its unusual shape, which I also think is really, really nice. And then of course the inner ring showing the days of the month, 1 to 31 accordingly. So that's the dial side. Just a quick look at the case. We've got a really nice, highly polished stainless steel case and lugs. Beautiful shaped crown. I'm going to lift this up and focus on the crown for you so you can see that we have this really, really nice signed crown. And the shape is very, very nice, but unfortunately it doesn't lend itself well to hand winding. It's fine for time setting, there's plenty of grip, but for hand winding it's not the best, because the smooth part is right here on the outside, which is where you're gripping, and you're only sort of gaining a little bit of grip by this knurled section at the bottom where you can get your finger underneath. So thankfully it's an automatic, so that is not such a huge problem, and it means that you're not going to be hand winding it beyond the initial hand winding when you strap it to your wrist. But lovely crown, just not the best design with regards to hand winding. So slight little grumble there, but nothing major. Let me give that a wipe so it looks nice and presentable. We'll take a look at the corrector buttons, which are set at 4 and 8 respectively, and they are very typical of your inset pusher corrector buttons. Nothing particularly special or unusual that you can see there. Nice smooth case sides, and the shape is quite nice as well. It's I'm going to zoom out so you can see the shape of this better. There we go on a zoomed out view, just so you can see the case shape a little better. You'll note that it slopes downward to the case back, so it's not even all the way around, and it's a slightly unusual but very, very nice shape. It certainly works well for sitting on the wrist. It's very comfortable to wear. Nice shape to the lugs, and the overall shape is also very reminiscent of Chinese architecture. I think it's and I think that's the intention. I think that's what the manufacturers have gone for at this with this particular layout, to give the overall shape something that's very reminiscent of Chinese architecture. The same with the crown that you see there. Really, really nice. So let's move on to the back and take a look at this beautiful movement. First of all, we'll just look at the case back. It's a brushed stainless case back which has decoration all the way around the outside and securing screws, 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, that secure the case back to the case. Vager Hauers, which is the brand name, and then we have 5 atmospheres water resistance. I will put that on the vacuum tester and test that. Reference number, and again the signature that appears on the crown and on the box. And then we have an exhibition case back. Looking first at the oscillating weight, you can see the really nice Côte de Genève decoration, the Geneva stripes, and very nicely executed, and no particularly rough edges, which is commonly seen on what appear to be initially nicely decorated Chinese movements until you look at them up close and in great detail. This is finished really, really nicely indeed. Directly below that, if focus on the automatic bridge for you, you can see we have this very nicely executed perlage, and this continues on all of the visible plates down here as well. So the automatic bridge, and then the balance cock, the train bridge, and presumably onto the barrel bridge as well, which it does, yes. So really, really nicely finished. The pattern all follows itself well, and the rest of this looks really good quality. I've got to say, I'm very impressed with this. It's the first time I've gotten up close and personal with a Chinese 28242 clone, and I'm impressed by the appearance of this, I really am. There's a little bit of a mark. I don't know if that's a tarnish or if that's just a little bit of mark from assembly on the ratchet wheel. And then the barrel lid is not quite as nicely finished as you would find on an ETA movement, but you know, again, huge difference in the price tag between an ETA movement and the Chinese clone. So scooting that oscillating weight back around for you, let's look at the balance cock. You can see we've got the fine adjust regulator, a KIF trio type shock spring, which you will find on the lower grade ETA movements, where the Inca block is used on the higher grade movements. And we've got the Etacron balance system with the studs for the stud lever and the regulator, which you can just about see just underneath the bridge here. And there's the balance pumping away at 28,800 vibrations per hour. Now, looking at the timing of the readings that I've taken so far, I could actually tighten that up a little bit, especially with it having an Etacron system. A little bit of adjustment on the Etacron regulator studs, and that could be tightened up a little, I'm quite sure. But I'm not going to open this unnecessarily at the moment. We'll see how the regulation settles out. Likewise, the beat error could also be tightened up, and there's no reason why it couldn't be a 0 beat error, dial up, dial down. But that's just me being particularly picky, because obviously I always look for the best performance I can get when I'm rebuilding a movement. But it looks very clean. It's very nicely assembled. There's some very, very tiny marks, having looked under the scope, some incredibly tiny marks on the screws from assembly, but not noticeable particularly, even at this kind of magnification under a macro lens. As mentioned, there's what I believe is a faux leather strap. It's not the worst strap I've ever seen by all means, but it's not particularly nice. A really nice leather strap would have finished this off nicely, but all things considered, for the price point and for the movement that you're getting, it's really not bad, and I will pick up another strap for it at some point. The clasp, as mentioned, is a double deployment type, highly polished stainless steel, and on the other side we've got some lovely perlage and the signed clasp there. Apologies for the smudgy finger marks. And obviously the strap at this side, which is a crocodile style design. A quick look to see how it looks on the wrist, and it sits very nicely. It's very comfortable. The case shape, I've got relatively skinny wrists, and this strap is on the last hole and is a good tight fit, probably a little tighter than I would normally wear my watches. So it has a very good range of size adjustment and fitting. As you can see, there's quite a bit of strap there, and it fits really, really nice and comfortably. And there we go. So that gives you an idea of how it looks fitted. What we're going to do here is take a Timegrapher reading, and this is fully wound out of the case, and the time has been set to a point where it's not interacting with the date change mechanism. This is important because that will affect your Timegrapher readings. And I'm going to take a series of readings as I would with a watch that I've just completed servicing, and this is taking an average over the course of a minute in each position: dial up, dial down, pendant down or 9 high, pendant right or 6 high, pendant up or 3 high, and pendant left or 12 high. So I'm going to place the watch into the Timegrapher. I usually tend to place them dialed down because at this point after a service I would be tweaking the regulation. The case shape of this one is not conducive to that. It's actually shaped in such a manner that it can slip up out of the Timegrapher easily, and you'll note that I'm placing it with the crown over here onto the microphone. Which is important. A lot of people place it the other way around, and the crown is connected directly to the movement, and it makes sense to place them directly on the microphone. I'll actually do a separate video on the Timegrapher and using that to take how to use that and take readings to get a proper average. So I'm just going to focus in on the Timegrapher over here. I'm going to zoom in so you can see that, and then we'll run through the settings in those positions. So we'll restart that dial up, and I'll fast forward through this bit so that you can see the running through the testing and get an idea of the figures that you're looking at. And I will make a note of these, and we'll take a delta and an average at the end of that and see how it performs straight out of the box, as it were. We saw a decent amplitude across the range, and a minimum deviation from 0 of +4 in the dial up position, and a maximum deviation of +21. And these are the extremes, and that gives us a delta of +17, which is the largest variation between positions that this is measured in. Now bear in mind that this is a Chinese-made 28242 clone movement, and it is not a chronometer grade movement. So those figures are actually pretty good, fresh out of the box on the first wind. Bearing in mind we don't know also how long this has sat in the box at the shippers or dealers or what have you. So those figures are pretty good. What I'm going to do next, what's going to follow, is I'm going to set this, with the exception of the Moonphase, because I've got no idea how to set that at the moment. It is a true Moonphase, incidentally. I've wound the hands around a few times. It's not a day-night thing, so it is a true Moonphase. And I'm going to wear this for a few days and see how it performs on the wrist and get an average gain and loss with wear. We're just going to take a look at the various setting procedures on this, because we do have a couple of small pushers, as you can see there, in addition to the crown. Obviously the hand winding is crown in position 1, and you just rotate it as you normally would. To set the time, you pull it out to position 2 and you rotate anti-clockwise as you would expect with an ETA movement. And you can see there we're just moving to the date change position, and you can see the date hand move over like so. And you'll also note that the second hand stops. It has a hacking function. So push the crown in and the hand starts right up again. And it does also have a ghost position. You pull it out to position 1, which would be your conventional date change, and you cannot feel anything there because there's clearly no calendar wheel in there. The only wheel under there, the disc rather, would be the Moonphase disc. So it does have a ghost position, as it were, and a first click position, but no, obviously no calendar wheel to set. So, but you can see there. It's very smooth. The winding is very smooth. With regards to rapid date change and Moonphase change, I'm just going to turn the hands around to the lower quadrant as you normally would, just in case. I don't know how the interaction of, or if the interaction of the Moonphase affects that. The interaction of the date change certainly will, because even though it's not a standard calendar wheel, it will. So to change the date, the calendar wheel, you press in, I'm going to use a piece of pegwood here rather than the luxury cocktail sticks supplied. So you press in here and you can see with each press the hand jumps around, and anybody who has a pointer hand date mechanism will be familiar with this. I love the shape of that date hand, that's so quirky. And then on this side, let's move these hands out of the way for you so we can actually see what's going on. On this side here, if I press this one, you can see the Moonphase wheel moves in. Whoop, tricky I'm trying to make sure I've got this on the screen for you and see where I'm pointing this pegwood at the same time. But you can see there, hopefully, that Moonphase dial rotating gracefully with each push and moving the moon around. So that's how the operation of the watch works. It's all very smooth. And here's the segment where we are several days later. It's been a week, in fact, since the initial unboxing. I wore the watch for 3 days straight. It was wound and set at 10:45 p.m. And upon checking the gain and loss rates at 10:45 on the 3 subsequent nights of wear, it was a consistent plus 11 seconds per night. Now, before we get caught up in the fact that 11 seconds gain per day might seem a lot, the most important point to consider here is that it was consistent. 3 days of wear, 3 completely different situations and variations in activities for the day when it was worn, and yet the time difference remained consistent at plus 11 seconds per day. So this tells me that with the watch regulated down to a better figure on the wrist, which is easily done, it would retain that consistency, and that is the important point to consider here. So I'm very, very pleased with that. The quality of the movement, as you saw in the close-up shots, is excellent. The performance has been consistent, and it's behaved incredibly well. I'm really, really pleased with it. For the price point, I believe that this is a real bargain. It's just over $300 brand new, which at the time of ordering equated to something like £250 shipped, I think it was. I would have to double check that again, but very, very reasonable, considering that you're getting a really, really nicely finished Seagull ETA 28242 clone, and a good quality one of those alone is £70 or £80. to buy from AliExpress or what have you. There are of course cheaper clones out there, but you can tell from the quality of the finishing, as you saw in the close-ups, this was much nicer than your average. And add to that the quality of the watch, the dial, the case. I think it's a real bargain overall. Those figures that we got there, that have just been quoted, is within the guidelines that Seiko gives for their £500 and plus watches, which is typically for the NH35 or 4R35 within, I believe, is it plus 25, minus 12 to plus 25 seconds a day or something like that. So in theory, if you were to get a Seiko at 600-700 plus and it was giving you figures like that and you complained to the dealer, they would tell you, sorry, that's within spec. So you really can't complain. Very easy to regulate down, however, as I said. So all in all, I'm really pleased with it. The only minus points, as mentioned, are that the crown is not the best design for hand winding. If you're wearing this, of course, regularly, that wouldn't be a problem because you wind it, you set it, you put it on your wrist and you forget about it. The strap is not the best in the world. The buckle is really nice. The case is really nice. The strap itself is not the best. It looks nice, but it doesn't feel like genuine leather. It doesn't say genuine leather, and it just feels a little thin and flimsy, but only time will tell with regards to how that will wear on the wrist. But you know, it's a minor point really when all is said and done. The overall finishing and assembly, very nice. It was left off the wrist after the third day, and it remained running for 46.5 hours, so almost 2 complete days before the power ran down. This means, for example, you could take this off on a Friday night and it would be still almost in running order on a Monday morning. If you were to take it off for the end of the week and put it back on for the Monday morning, you would only have to wind forward a few hours to get that caught up and give it a manual wind to get it going, and off you go again for the week. So all in all, very pleased. Really impressed, especially for the money. And to the pertinent question of would I recommend this watch? Absolutely, I would. I think it's a beautiful looking watch. It's a real talking point. It's actually got noticed by a few people who remarked on seeing the dial. At first, it's quite a striking dial from a distance anyway, and then of course when somebody looks up close, the initial surprise is, oh, is that Chinese? Is that Japanese? What is that? You know. So it's a great talking point, and it really attracted attention. And the Moonphase, I think, is just beautiful with the slightly angled pose that you see on the dial there. So all in all, yes, I would recommend it. It's a beautiful dress watch, which could also be worn for general day-to-day use. And it's just that little bit different. It's unashamedly Chinese in its design, the shape of the case, the shape of the crown, the shape of the calendar pointer hand, and the slightly off-center cant of the Moonphase window. It's very focused on its Chinese design origins, and that I think is really nice to see, because you hear so many, you very often on watch groups hear so many people saying, why do they just make homage watches? Why can't they make something, because they can make nice movements, why can't they make something that is, you know, their own design, that is Chinese? Well, here you go, folks. There is that watch, or one of them, and I don't doubt for a moment that there will be others to come. So that is the Vager Hauers Moonphase. Strange that they chose a Germanic sounding name, but an unashamedly Chinese designed Moonphase dress watch, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I hope you like this review. Please keep an eye on the channel. I have a couple of very special watches coming up for review, and I look forward to sharing them with you. So thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.